We're back from Thanksgiving break, and things certainly have descended into a bit of chaos, and rather quickly. City have fallen out of Champions League qualification, Aston Villa out of Europe entirely, and Leicester fired their manager. It's a Mondo episode covering the past 3 match days, so there's a lot to cover today on Coffee with a Kick. Hello and welcome back to our Thanksgiving Palooza. Our grand recap of match day 12 of the Premier League, match day 5 of the Champions League, and match day 13 of the Premier League, everything that occurred over the past weekend change, before getting into, in our next episode, the midweek Premier League action that we have on docket. But first, we'll go ahead and just move straight back into match day 12. Before we do, though, how was your Thanksgiving? Keegan. You're Keegan, I'm Xander. Got to make sure we do introductions here.
It was good, man. Time with family. Got to catch a college football game between Ole Miss and Mississippi State. As far as soccer goes, probably the worst week of my fandom in a long time that I've felt.
Yeah.
But we give thanks for everything else, don't we? How was your Thanksgiving? What about you?
You had a good run at it, Manchester City. We'll see how much recuperation can occur this season. You got Pep locked in for another 2 years, so we'll see. We will see. I made it to Pittsburgh and back safely, so that's good. And I had some good food along the way, mostly when I was stationed in either Indianapolis or Pittsburgh. Now you can find us. Oh no, I shouldn't have said that. But we'll go ahead now and dip into match day 12, which began with Leicester City and Chelsea. One of your you had a significant number of perfect picks over these 3 match days. This is your first of them here, with Chelsea taking out Leicester 2-1. And really, it was 2-0. Just they got a penalty there. Leicester did in the 90+5 that Jordan Ayew was able to put back, but. It is a good result for Chelsea, to be certain.
Yeah, Chelsea continue to impress. They're actually stringing together their defense now. So it appears that they're starting to kind of form into a full team and not just a team that scores 4 or 5 goals and lets in 4 or 5 goals. So it is Leicester, though. It is Leicester, but it's a good win. It's a good away win in the Premier League.
Yep, anytime you can win away, that is a good result. That is a good result indeed. Then we move to Arsenal and Nottingham Forest. Nottingham Forest unable to pull off the upset in this one. They were thoroughly handled by Arsenal, 3-0. A little bit more even in the first half. A lot of yellow cards for Arsenal, but second half, Arsenal did begin to pull away at the Emirates Stadium. And Nottingham Forest could not hold.
Yeah, really never had a chance. No shots on goal. Not really any of their shots. Obviously testing the keeper. None really getting close to the goal. So, that's the tale of the game. I feel like Nottingham played decently, especially in the first half, but just could not get anything going inside the 18.
No, it's a sure smothering there by Arsenal, who are... now find themselves up in... Well, at that point they weren't in second. But we'll get to that table placement here at the end of next match day. Then we go to which I think we both got wrong. Yeah, we both got that one wrong. We both got Chelsea right, both got this one wrong. The next one we also both got wrong because we did not have a 2-2 draw between Aston Villa and Crystal Palace. We both had Arsenal taking full. Arsenal just kind of falling off a cliff here in this part of the season. With this one being a draw in next match day, they have not done well. They were back. They were up in what? 4th? Just a few match days ago? Yeah, they're at 4th, match day 9, and they are now in 12th after match day 13. So Arsenal kind of pulling a Brighton this season, and drawing Crystal Palace at home is certainly a result that resembles that.
Yeah, Aston Villa, you said Arsenal there all 3 times you mentioned them. But
I certainly did, but I'm talking about Aston Villa versus Crystal Palace.
Aston Villa, you're right. They are... not doing so well. They've had a couple of injuries, but none to really cause this kind of form. It's really been Aston Villa and City have just both been in demoralizing form. And I'm not really sure how either team digs out of it, because Aston Villa, lost to Liverpool 2-0 match day 11, lost to Tottenham match day 10, 4-1, drew Bournemouth the match day 9. They won in match day 8 against Fulham with a good red card helping them out there. But Aston Villa not in good form either, along with Man City. So both teams really need to get it together, or else they're going to find themselves a little too far away from contention.
Yep, they certainly will. And we'll get to the Champions League side of the things for them in just a moment. We got to finish up this match day first. Speaking of Brighton Hove Albion, they continue their good run of form. They won away in match day 12 at Bournemouth, with the 2-1 coming very late on for Bournemouth. Another 90+3 goal this time for Bournemouth, with David Brooks getting assist by Ines Unal. But it was good to see Mitoma get back on the score sheet. He had I don't know the last time that he scored this season, but did get on early in the second half to kind of help Brighton get a lead, which they really needed, because the red card made things a little bit interesting. Bournemouth wasn't able to capitalize, obviously, until too late on. But Brighton gets a good away win here in that was November at the time.
Yeah, João Pedro's opening goal was the earliest Bournemouth have ever conceded a goal at home.
Really?
So impressive early goal from him. It really set the tone. Bournemouth just lacked teeth in this one. A red card comes 59th minute. You've got 31 minutes plus to go get a goal, and they pressed, but only mustered up 5 shots on target. Yeah, some of those were good shots, but really, the David Brooks one was the first and only really good chance for Bournemouth. So they just lacked teeth where they really could have taken it, and probably should have gotten all 3 against the 10-man Brighton for a third of the match.
You would think so, especially being at home, but it wasn't to be for Bournemouth. It also wasn't to be an interesting match between Everton and Brentford. A 0-0 draw, which I believe one of us had a draw. Hold on, where am I? There we are. We both actually had draws, so this actually was a good result for us. We both had some goals, though. 0-0 draw, though, even with a red card in the first half for Brentford. So Everton finding interesting ways to disappoint their fans throughout this season. Everton has found a new one, a 0-0 draw after having a full half of being a man up.
Yeah, Everton kind of resorted back to their form at the beginning of the season, where they just couldn't find the back of the net. 27 shots, only 5 on target. That is a drastic ratio that you don't want to see if you're Sean Dyche. So, Everton, they definitely, again, kind of like Bournemouth, they just wasted a good opportunity to get 3 points at home. So these are the types of points that come back to bite you at the end of the season. So you hate to see them drop them, but good on the other teams, especially Brentford, holding to the draw with pretty much an entire half with 10 men.
Yep, it was a very good result. And speaking of good results, I'll take them where I can get them. My Wolves win 4-1 at Fulham over Fulham, coming back from a goal down, ending 3 goals up. It's hard to complain about that.
Yeah, Wolves, as we'll see in match day 12 and 13, goals were coming. They can get goals when they go on the attack. They can get goals when they want to get goals. But this one, Fulham just kind of fell apart, especially there in the second half. It was pretty even in the first half, and then that Gomez goal started to set apart, and then Wolves there at the end, 2 goals in 6 minutes to end it. Pretty decent.
Yep, you got that one right. You believed my Wolves more than I did on this match day, which pays dividends with that unit push. And then we'll get to the first of your dreadful holiday results. This one is, just every time you see this scoreline, you're like, that doesn't seem right. 4-0 at the Etihad. Spurs manhandle Man City.
Yeah, boy. It really was James Madison and James Madison alone won this match. I mean, just set the tone in the first half. But again, it's a time where the middle of the pack is missing Rodri. And I'll say that again in the Champions League. I'll say that again in the game against Liverpool. It was just we're lacking that middle of the pack person that Gundogan is supposed to be filling in for. But boy, has he been garbage at that position because it's not his position. He's not there to be the CDM. He wants to be creative, be more of a center mid. And it shows. I mean, we just really lack that person in the middle. De Bruyne didn't show up for this one. I think he got in near at the end, but it just doesn't look like we have that central figure who's leading the charge. And again, shows why Rodri won the Ballon d'Or, but also shows why City is in such bad form.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, KDB did not get in until the 74th minute, and the game was already up 3-0. So I mean, it was just to keep him more integrated with the side coming back from his injury. But then we'll move to Sunday, the 24th, with Southampton and Liverpool. This one certainly was much more interesting than Liverpool intended it to be, being down 2-1 in the second half against Southampton. They did manage to pull out all 3 points, though, with Mo Salah getting a brace in the last half hour. Liverpool finding ways to win. It's an important thing, especially at the top of the table.
Yeah. Liverpool keep rolling. They're probably the best team as far as form goes in the entire world right now.
Yeah, best team.
Barcelona might be a close second with how they've been playing, but Liverpool, I mean, they're beating everybody. Southampton put up 2 goals more than we'll see some heavier weight teams put up in the next 2 recaps. So, I mean, yeah, Liverpool caught off guard by Southampton, but they still get it done. I mean, you can't blame them.
Cannot blame them for a victory. Then to Ipswich Town drawing Manchester United 1-1 with 2 first half goals and then a whole lot of nothing in the second half. It was not great to watch. Onana did his job in this one, though. I mean, it's 6 shots on goal by Ipswich Town, and they only managed to put 1 past him. So Onana continues to be very up and down throughout his career.
Yeah, this one went as I predicted it. Obviously, scoreline, perfect pick, 1-1, but it was kind of like started off really hot. Energy is high, but then Ipswich slowly, the crowd gets behind them. And the new manager is kind of still toying with the team, showing them where to go, kind of doing a lot more coaching than maybe someone like Pep would do as far as like positioning where they should stand. And, you saw it out there. Ipswich took advantage of that disorganization, got another goal. And second half, like you said, it was kind of just a stalemate. It really felt like Amarim was like, hey, guys, we want to win, but also let's go out there and make sure my system is implemented. And you kind of saw some hesitancy in some players in their positions. Am I doing the right thing? Now, as we'll talk about, that changes very rapidly, and they win quite well in the next upcoming match weekend. But this one went as predicted. New manager, new system, players trying to figure it out. But good for Ipswich Town for keeping a top 6 team to a draw.
Yeah. It hasn't paid off in position yet on the table, but Ipswich Town has shown that they might be able to make it up. We both picked them to stay up, but we'll see. I think we both did. Hold on, am I lying? I think we both did.
I mean, I picked them to be 11th, I think. 11th or 12th, so they were my sleeper.
Yes, you picked them to be 11th, and then I would pick them to be 13th. So we both still think that there's movement in them. And then to wrap up match day 12, we have West Ham going into St. James's Park and taking it 2-0. Something which neither of us thought was going to happen.
Oh, man. Newcastle continue to be that team. At least Man City, when they're bad, they stay bad for a little bit. Aston Villa, they stay bad for a little bit. But Newcastle can go thrash someone 4-1 and then lose the next week 2-0 to a much, much inferior team. And I don't know really what to say about this. I mean, West Ham just played better. Like, Newcastle looked sluggish. Yeah. They looked like they didn't even want to attack. I think they only had 2 shots on goal. the entire match. Not the type of Newcastle that will show up in probably the next couple of match days. I mean, they may come out and win 3-0 or 2-0 and get the results, but they seem to be that team that they're just not all there as far as mentality. But good for West Ham. They're 14th. After match day 13, they're 14th. But this was a big win because it at least gets them to the point where they're not so desperate to get out of the zone, but they have a comfortable two-game
cushion there. Right, yeah, before they are a full game clear of any sort of relegation threat at the moment. Having 6 full points on my Wolves, who are now up to 18th. Wow. Incredible. Well, 17th at that time, though. 17th at that time. Always got to remember that we're backtracking a little bit. So for the match day itself, you had your best week in a while. I think since match day 3, you had your best match day. With your 2 perfect picks, certainly giving you a boost there. I went 4 and 6 with a couple positive units, so I came out in the money with my 1 perfect pick. Oh, that
in the money.
Yes, in the money. Hold on, let me update that appropriately. Whatever. I don't need to work on that right now. And then favorites did very poorly. I mean, it was a pretty wild match week as far as that is concerned. 3 and 7 the favorites went. What was that?
Wow.
Yeah, not great. We will now move over to the Champions League match day 5, where the favorites actually fared much better. When we did not. I think this might be the second match week of this season, I believe, where we both lost to the favorites.
Wow.
Let's see, is that right? I thought there was one other. Yes. Match day 2 in the Premier League. We both lost to picking just straight favorites. This is the only second time that has happened for us, which, that's pretty good for us. This is only the second time we both lost to favorites. But we'll get started with the match that actually went rather well for us, which was the Tuesday of match day 5, which was the 26th. Starting off with, we'll just go through these quickly, and then we can talk about the ones that we feel like talking about. A lot of red cards on Tuesday. Slovan Bratislava and AC Milan. Milan escapes 3-2, even with Slovan Bratislava getting a red card. Sparta Prague, yikes. 6-0 there for Atleti. Manchester City, wow. Now, we'll come back and talk about that 3-3 draw against Feyenoord, because it is certainly something. PSG loses to Bayern Munich with 1 red card and also 1-0. Inter beats RB Leipzig 1-0. Barcelona beats Brest 3-0. Bayern Leverkusen, classic German side, spanking another team. 5-0 for Bayern Leverkusen. Arsenal, another 5-1. This one's 5-1 over Sporting CP. And then Atalanta drops 6 on Young Boys, which seems excessive. We know Young Boys is bad at this point. 6-1. So really a lot of lopsided match. It's either lopsided or very close, which is a strange thing for this one. I guess it's not that strange. That's kind of the result you would expect, but rather either end, far on the bell curve for these results on this match day. City and Leverkusen is really the most interesting one in here, I think, with City being up. Well, you're up 3-1 going into the last quarter of the match, I believe it was. Is that right? Yeah,
we're
the
up 3-0.
Up 3-0 going into the last quarter of the match and squander that victory, which is, I would say, devastating.
Yeah, for morale, I predicted a 4-0 victory, and it was looking pretty solid up until the 74th minute. And morale is up, and then just leaking goals, players not being in the right position, not having that guy in the middle that's going to stop the attack before it actually starts, like Rodri would. Ederson has been abysmal, and he was benched in this weekend's match because he just hasn't lived up to the billing. And boy, I was 8-1 on this match day. I would rather have gone 1-8 with my only one being Man City winning, but they just fell apart. Feyenoord was not in the match for probably about minute 10 to minute 73. It really was City dominating like a classic City team. Then out of nowhere, Feyenoord, they get it done, and kudos to them. But boy, as a City fan, I have no answers. After this, Pep had to issue an apology because I don't know if you saw, but he came out with his head all scratched up and his nose bleeding. And in the press conference, they asked him what happened. He said, and I quote, "I like to harm myself." Oh. So then he had to come out with a statement saying that that wasn't what he meant and that that's not PC anymore. But Pep is clearly fed up. You know, people have been saying that maybe he should be sacked, which I think is ridiculous.
Yeah.
But he thinks that his, title record of 6 at City is good enough to keep his job. I think so too. But I mean, 3-0, that's not something that City is doing that to other teams. Feyenoord shouldn't be doing that to City. And if this was Arsenal, we'd be saying the same thing. Liverpool, same thing. So I don't know. Hopefully this is the end of the craziness for City and they can get back on the front foot in the midweek. We'll see. But yeah, I mean, it was embarrassing as a City fan.
Yeah. It's hard because like you kind of want to move past it, but you also want to use it as a learning moment as well. So they didn't react too well because the result on the weekend wasn't great. We'll see. I would say they're getting to a lesser side, but Feyenoord, I would say, is rather comparable with Nottingham Forest coming up this weekend. I mean, that as far as threat level to Manchester City, I think that's relatively comparable. So we'll see if they can get over the hump here and start putting some results on the paper that's not terrible. But I'm not convinced currently. Maybe not. But yes, you and the favorites went 8-1. I was a little bit more adventurous and paid for it here. And then we get to Wednesday. And Wednesday, we both only got 2 matches correct in total, which is part of the reason why we lost to the favorites. We lost to just picking favorites. Starting off with, a rather bizarre result. Let me get back over there. Come on. Faster. Load faster. Starting off with Sverige beating Stuttgart 5-1. Okay, sure. Sturm Graz beating Girona 1-0. What? Liverpool beating Real Madrid. I mean, Liverpool, we've talked about, is probably the best team in Europe at the moment, if not the world. More red cards because PSV wins 3-2 over Shakhtar with a red card, and Monaco loses to Benfica 2-3 with a red card. Dortmund does beat Dynamo Zagreb 3-0. Juve and Aston Villa draw 0-0. Rather boring there. Celtic does not get the victory against Club Brugge at home. 1-1 draw there. And then Bologna loses to FC Lille 2-1. And it was not a lot went our way. We both got that Dortmund would beat Dynamo Zagreb because I feel like that was a pretty easy choice. And then PSV beating Shakhtar was much closer than we had anticipated.
Yeah, I mean, this is a weird one. Aston Villa at home, typically been pretty solid. Juventus, not been the best team in form as of recently. Mm-hmm. Liverpool, obviously best team in the world. I'm okay with not getting that one. But, I mean, we saw Celtic the last 2 match weeks in the Champions League dominate their opponent. Bologna and Lille, we both were kind of like, we have no idea what's going to happen here, but let's just pick something. Yeah, and then Girona and Sturm Graz. Sturm Graz hasn't been amazing. That's a pretty impressive win. The one that gets me is Stuttgart just getting demolished.
Yeah.
By Sverige. Stuttgart, I mean, they're 9th in the Bundesliga. That's not great. But yeah, it's a team that, I mean, they're putting up 2 and 3 goals a weekend against Bundesliga side teams. You're playing against Svedia and you lose 5-1. That can't make you feel good. So that was the shocking one to me, really, is,
For sure.
Svedia hasn't been the team in the Champions League where we've both been like, hey, they have a chance to blow a team out. No, they have a chance to win 1-0, let alone 5-1. So kudos to them. I'll say that.
Definitely for Sturm Graz there. They got a chance to maybe make it into the knockouts. And they still got some work to do, but just looking at the table here, we've still got Young Boys, Svedia, RB Leipzig. RB Leipzig, what are you guys doing? Still on 0 points. What a terrible performance. I mean, Young Boys obviously are way worse, but still not great. Next most notable team, PSG, on the verge of not making to even knockout stages here. They are a full 2 points under 24th, which is Real Madrid currently. Dynamo Zagreb right now is qualifying over them. City is not in the. They have now fallen out of the straight to the round of 16. Because they're well down now in 17th on the table after their loss and draw. So they're even going to be they'll be into they may get a bad matchup because they will be in the unseeded portion of the knockout phase, home and away. So, they could pull someone like Bayern Munich, which would be, that's not what you're looking for, especially in the shape that you're in. No, we still got a long way to go for that. We still got 3 match days, so City could make some changes here and get back in place. And they're only 1 point out, or 2 points out of automatic qualifying for round of 16. So, they've still got some room to move. But
tough matches coming up though. I mean, they play Uve at Uve, PSG in Paris. Then they end it with Club Brugge at home, and Club Brugge has not been a team that has gone away quietly. So 3 tough matches coming up. So it'll be a test to see where they end up.
It certainly will be, and those teams will be as desperate as they are because Juve is below them. They're in 19th. PSG we already talked about being probably the most disappointing side in the tournament thus far, I would say. It's either them or RB Leipzig, and that's just because RB Leipzig usually gets something. Both of the RBs.
They're ahead of Dortmund in the Bundesliga standings.
Yeah,
so to see them being that good in domestic play and then not translating to European against teams they should beat, very interesting.
Yeah, like I said, it's a lot of weird results for them just being... just not good. Yeah, but in the end, we both ended up having. My results were rather poor. minus 6 units is not a good result on the day. I still lead the overall standings for.
Barely.
For the Champions League, I'm at 3.8. You're still losing money on the Champions League, which is not a good look. Favorites are barely a unit up. I did rejigger all of the units because I was doing it wrong.
Well, I don't know what rejigger is, but all right.
What? You never heard of the term rejigger?
I've heard of a slur that sounds kind of like that, but sheesh.
Well, those are totally unrelated matters. Totally unrelated matters. All right, well, enough talking about that because he's made it weird. We're moving on to match day 13. Something that went so much better for you. You had your best week of the year, actually. Oh, no. Match day 3 still beats you. You had 18 minutes. Yeah, just by a smidge.
That's shocking because I did very well.
Yeah, I didn't. I've continued my poor form. I'm basically the Man City of our picks right now. Just getting totally wrecked. We were still beating favorites by a lot in the Premier League, which is good. But still, you are blowing me out of the water by quite a bit, for almost 40 units. So trail him on the Premier League picks. Now, for this match day, that is not the right number. Hold on. Oh, was that a perfect pick? Oh, it was. That's why it's like that. There we go. First one up was Brighton, Hove Albion, and Southampton. Your first perfect pick of the day at a 1-1 draw. Hold on, I've got to update where I'm looking.
I mean, Southampton is playing well as of late. I mean, they should have gotten points against Liverpool. Unlucky with that penalty at the end. Then here, I mean, going to Brighton and getting a draw is, again, very impressive for where they're at. Now, are they only at 5 points? Are they still last? Yes, but you have to start somewhere. And this is a great place to start. Matoma back on the score sheet, but Southampton dominates the second half, might I say, and really brings it back to Brighton and gets a good draw away from home, which is what teams like Southampton need to survive the drop.
Absolutely. And you did, like I said, you got that one perfectly correct. It was not the 3-0 victory that I was hoping for. But we will move on from that one to Brentford and Leicester. 4-1 victory for Brentford. Rather convincing with Kevin, is it Shade? Is it Sade? I don't know. It's probably Sade, right?
Kevin hat-trick now.
Yeah, Kevin hat-trick. That's absolutely right. With their 8 minutes of stoppage time in the first half. But yeah, Brentford takes it to Leicester at G-Tech Community Stadium and have the rather masterful performance.
Yeah, I mean, this one was, I should have seen this coming. Leicester hired Ruud van Nistelrooy as their manager. This was his first game after being announced as the full manager. I didn't even do what I said. I mean, I predicted Brentford to win anyway, 1-0, but they got throttled. I hope it changes for Leicester because they need a difference. Frankly, I'm not sure why they made a manager change this early in the season. It doesn't make a ton of sense to me because, I mean, are they out of the relegation zone right now?
Just barely at this point. They're at 10 points after this match day, 1 point out of relegation.
Yeah, I don't see why you need to make a manager change. Like Van Nistelrooy, I guess he's the sexy pick. But, I mean, you're 10th. You're 16th as a newly promoted team. Sure, you've only gotten 1 point in the last 5 matches. That's not great, but I don't know. Manager change this early for a team like Leicester, it's a little different than Man U because Man U has the talent and the infrastructure to where a manager can come in, spark some belief, get some good results. Leicester, they might not be that team anymore because, again, newly promoted teams are just different than well-established teams. So it makes sense to me how they lost 4-1 with the manager change and all that. So tough loss, though.
General uproar is not a good does not a good team make, a good performance make. Then to your next perfect pick, a 1-1, and this one very late on, became a 1-1 draw between Crystal Palace and Newcastle. Newcastle getting an own goal in the 53rd minute, and then Daniel Munoz, 90+4 point saver for Crystal Palace at home. For your second perfect pick of the week up to that point. I think the other one, your second one of the week in general. Still, good job.
Yeah, this was the first match this whole Premier League season where not a single shot on target was registered in the first half.
Wow.
So if that tells you how this match went, it was not super exciting. Newcastle didn't even have a single shot on target in the whole match. They became the first team to score despite failing to hit the target since Watford against Southampton in 2020.
Not only that, they only had one shot registered in general.
Yeah.
Newcastle, what's going on, fellas?
Yeah, not sure what's going on with Newcastle. Again, like we kind of talked about earlier in this episode, like they're the team that this upcoming midweek could demolish Liverpool. Like they could win 4-1. Like they're just that kind of team that can come out of nowhere and get a massive victory. Do I think it's going to happen? Probably not. But they need to figure it out quick or else Eddie Howe may be on the chopping block. I believe that.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's one shot in general is it's not even against like Crystal Palace isn't known for being a possessing team, you know? It's not like you're getting smothered to death on the possession numbers. Like, what was the split here? It wasn't that crazy. Yeah, you even led possession 51-48. So 51-49. So it's baffling that they could do that and still get the point, you know? So you can't even complain too much, especially since you got it as a perfect pick. And then Nottingham Forest does beat Ipswich Town. One that Ipswich Town really would have wanted, but the 49th minute penalty by Chris Wood gives Nottingham Forest full honors for the home fans there at the City Ground in Nottingham Forest. Another correct pick by you.
Yeah, I mean, Chris Wood continues to be the man here for Nottingham. 9 goals in 13 games, only behind Salah and Holland. He's the guy. He's beating out people like Cole Palmer and Nico Jackson in the Golden Boot. He's the only reason. We took a look at Chris Wood last year. He had 50% of his team's goals last year. Let's see where he's at this year. Let's look at the standings. How many does Nottingham have this year? They have 16. So he has, what is that? 60% almost, 58%
roughly, yeah,
of their team's goals. And he's not stopping. He might win the Golden Boot. He's got Nottingham in 6th. Boy, it's exciting to be a Forest fan. It is really. If City end up getting relegated to League 2, I might be a Nottingham fan. Who knows?
That's, well, okay. Pump the brakes here real quick.
History is coming back for Nottingham. Champions League next year. We're doing it.
They're going for that 3rd star. 3-star Nottingham Forest. Let's do it. Then to my Wolves, Jurgen Strain-Larsen gets us 2 goals, but, you know, conceding a first half hat trick of penalties to Kluivert is not a good strategy for winning. Giving up 3 penalties in the first half. That's a tough hole to dig yourself out of. And we didn't. We lost.
Yeah, this one I felt like it was just the fortune of Bournemouth is really what happened. I mean, 4 goals scored in the first 18 minutes, 2 of those being penalties awarded to Bournemouth. It was just, they were fortunate this match. I felt like one of those penalties, it was either 18th or 74th, was rather harsh. But, you know, I mean, Wolves aren't the kind of team that when you're down 3-1, you're going to claw yourself back. You kind of felt that in the match. They tried, held possession very well. But when it came to actually scoring, Strand-Larsen could only put 1 more in. Yeah,
it wasn't a first half hat trick of penalties. The last hat trick came in. The last portion of the hat trick came in the 74th minute. So just after we were starting to get back into the match, got it back to a 1-goal deficit, it got put finally out of reach.
Yeah.
Disappointing, but, you know, listen, my Wolves are performing better. We're into the stretch that I was talking about where we can start getting some points. We're seeing that. You've talked about it as well, that we're starting to show that we're middle of the table. This was one of those winter matches where things just go a little nutty, just go a little strange, just go a little weird. Then we go to one that was also kind of weird in that it was 7 goals. I mean, Arsenal beats West Ham at London Stadium 5-2 with 5 different goal scorers, as a matter of fact, for Arsenal.
Yeah, 7 goals in 1 half is very impressive. And then the second half was kind of dull. It really was just Arsenal keeping West Ham at bay. But my goodness, 5 goals, 5 different people. This is kind of the Arsenal team that we expected to see this season. Just taking the game by the reins, controlling what's happening. And West Ham did what they could. Really, this was let's try and get the goal difference a little bit closer so it doesn't hurt us too much.
Didn't do too well at that, but we both got this one correct. So that's good. That's good. And then we move to Chelsea taking out the stumbling, bumbling Aston Villa 3-0. Nicholas Jackson, Enzo Fernandez, and Cole Palmer all getting on the score sheet there. This is the Chelsea team that I was hoping to see at the start of the season when I picked them to go second. They're now up into third, so I'm starting to look kind of like a cool guy in that pick.
Yeah, I mean, you said they needed to move up, and they've been giving you those results.
Yeah. And I ain't sad about it. Ain't sad about it at all. Now to another team that is moving in the right direction. Manchester United takes out Everton 4-0 with a double brace by Joshua Zirkzee and Marcus Rashford.
Yeah, he's not on the score sheet, but the MVP of this one was Amad Diallo. He was everywhere. I believe he assisted on 2 of these goals. And he seems to be the MVP on the wing in Amorim's system. So even though he didn't get any goals, he was probably the player of the game in this match. But, I mean, Man U look dangerous. They look dangerous.
Which is such a change from what they had been so far this season. Amorim is getting the potential out of the team that we thought that they could have. And it looks like it was a good move to get him in position. We'll see how this plays out going forward. It's only a small sample size. But against a team that you should be beating, you're beating them 4-0. That's a good result. No other way to cut it.
Yeah.
And then to one more match before we have to get to some more Chopin funeral marching. A 1-1 draw between Spurs and Fulham, with a red card coming for Fulham late on in the second half. Is that a straight red? Looks like so. Not a lot to say about this one. Spurs probably would have liked to get full points, especially going up a man. But, you got your pick correct anyway. It wasn't quite the 3-3 that you thought, but anytime you can hit on a draw, it's usually a good unit play.
Yeah, interesting move here from Ainge. The red card comes in the 83rd minute. VAR gets involved, upgrades a yellow to a red. But then immediately afterwards, he takes off James Maddison and puts on Lucas Bergvall. I wasn't really sure about why he did that, because Madison's your most creative guy. He just scored 2 goals against City. He was clearly involved in a lot of the buildup and in the Brennan Johnson goal. Then you just take him out once the other team's down to 10 men. Doesn't make a lot of sense there, especially when you're at home. So that was the only puzzling piece to this. I felt like keeping him in there gave them a better chance of getting all 3 points. But again, another team, just like we saw in match day 12, that did not take advantage of a red card from the other team. So it is what it is. I'm happy with it. It keeps Tottenham at bay in the table as far as City is concerned. But yeah, I really thought there were going to be fireworks in this one, but I was wrong. Still got the draw, but I was wrong.
And then to the final match of the Thanksgiving recap Mondo episode. Liverpool at Anfield takes out Man City 2-0. Go ahead. Go on ahead.
Yeah, this one... Boy, this is the first time City has lost 4 matches since August of 2008. And that was right before the official takeover for the new owners. So the new owners have never seen 4 matches lost in a row. First time Pep in his entire managerial career has lost 4 in a row. And Pep has the lowest win percentage against Liverpool at 26%. He has 6 wins, 8 draws, 9 losses. So Liverpool dominated this one. This is another one where Pep left it very late to bring on some of the players I thought that were going to make a difference. He brought on Doku and Savinho mid-50s for some of our midfielders, but he leaves Jack Grealish and De Bruyne on the bench again when supposedly both are fully fit. Didn't really agree with that decision. But I mean, it clearly showed we didn't have any creativity going forward. Final third looked abysmal. So, boy, I think just a reshuffle is going to be needed. But KDB's got to start it eventually. I mean, if he's fully fit, it's the same system it's always been. So I'm not sure why he wouldn't have started in this big of a game. given his magnitude as a player, the creativity we needed. But I do believe that this match went better than 2-0 looks. I mean, there was a good 20 to 25 minutes in the middle of the game where City kind of looked back to their old form, dominating possession, spreading it out wide, putting some crosses in. But a deep sigh is all I can muster, and I hope that the bleeding ends, because right now I think we bled all the blood we can, essentially.
Yeah, I mean, you're walking on some thin ice now to try to keep title hopes alive. I mean, even saying that at this point, I mean, you're at 13, match day 13. You are 11 points out of first. I mean, it's tight up there at the top until you hit the gap between second and first. I mean, you're gonna need Liverpool to do you some assistance after spanking you a little bit here in order to have a chance at it, because Liverpool could almost coast through to the end. I mean, they're 9 points clear of Arsenal of Arsenal and Chelsea in second and third. Just what is it? I think it's. Actually, I don't know. I guess it's alphabetical, right? Arsenal is above Chelsea in there. There's probably some minute modifier, but they're literally same goal difference, same goals for, same goals away, same results so far for Arsenal and Chelsea. So I'm not sure what's putting Arsenal above, unless it's just alphabetical at this point. I don't know. But
I don't know. They both drew when they played each other, so I think it might just be alphabetical.
Yeah, it's that. I mean, it doesn't super matter at the moment, but it is tight there between the second all the way down to what? Second all the way down to seventh is.
I mean, really, like
very tight.
Even 13th is only 5 points off of Brighton at 4.
Things go strangely. Aston Villa could jump all the way up into drawing with second at 25 points without too much going crazy. It's 6 points separate. There's a larger gap between second and what? Second and 13th than there is between first and second.
Yeah.
So there's a big bunch of people there. And City, everyone has their work cut out to try to reel Liverpool back in. It's going to have to be a league effort to button down the second half of this season and try to not let them just totally run away with it. And with how well Liverpool is playing, we'll see. The teams that they would need to have changing performance are performing better. Like Arsenal's playing better, Chelsea's playing better, Manchester United is playing better. City is the one who is on the downslope right now that we would have expected to be, not terrible. But there are some teams moving in the right direction at this point in the season that we could get some interesting results here in the second half. We're not quite to the second half yet, obviously, but these once you get past to December, you're almost there, and we have a lot of Premier League matches to cover here in the next couple weeks. But that brings us to the end of this Thanksgiving recap episode. You did end up having I miscategorized one of you were 7-3 with 2 perfect picks at 17.5 units. Just way up with the perfect picks. Now, the perfect picks obviously give you a little bit of an artificial boost over what you would actually have if you just bet them straight. But we want to give a little bit of a boost if you get something good. I did not do so well. I just won't even mention it. It was not great. I lost to everybody. It was bad. I was 4-6. Hopefully that improves. If not, we'll keep on trucking. And anything you want to say before we get out of here?
Pep, please figure it out before your fans start going crazy. That's all I got to add. I will say that Liverpool does end the season on an impressively hard run. Match day 36, they play Arsenal. Match day 35, they play Chelsea. Match day 34, they play Tottenham.
Okay.
So it's one of those where it's not over, obviously, until the fat British lady sings.
Susan Boyle, right?
Yeah, yes, obviously. That's who we were talking about. It's, anything can happen. I think at one point, 2 seasons ago, maybe Arsenal had a 14-point lead on match day 27, and City ended up winning. So whoever's going to beat Liverpool, it's going to take a pretty historic run, similar to what City did 2 years ago and last year. But it's not over. I mean, if you're within 6 points there in the final 5 match days, they got some tough games to try and close it out. So it's not over yet. Obviously, the recency bias is going to tell people it's over, but it's a long season, guys. It's a long season. I believe that another team that's not Liverpool, Arsenal, I believe City can win it still. So that's what we're going to end it with. That's what I say. Haaland, 40 goals this season. Here we come.
Here we go. 40 goals. Haaland, golden boot. And he's going to win player of the year. You know what? Let's just go for it. The whole kick caboodle. There we go. And until we see you in our... I think this will be coming out after the preview episode for this midweek action. So until we see you for our recap episode from the midweek, why don't you go ahead and grab your coffee, want some cider,